I'm here tonight with Jennifer Alvarado. Did you grow up in a musical family?
I grew up in a music-loving family. So my grandfather, he did play a multitude of instruments, and so I was always at his house, and he taught me mandolin and guitar and that kind of thing. And like he actually played for, I think, a Sunday morning radio station some, and so he did that. And like I said, he and my grandmother were very much into classic country and just country music in general. So I heard a lot of that growing up. And then my mom was very much into like classic rock, top 40 type stuff. But as far as really being involved with music, I think that was kind of I was the one off. I was the one that was very much from a very early age. That's what I wanted to do.
How would you describe your music?
Hmm. Um, so I pull a lot of different genres, I think, into my music, because I've grown up listening to so many different things. Um, Definitely country at its core. And I actually started in 2015. My first album was Contemporary Christian. That was the first thing I put out because I've grown up being a worship leader since I was 15 years old. And so that's what I pretty much thought music wise I was going to do. And then, of course, 2020 happens. And I think it made a lot of people kind of go left or right or wherever. And for me, I had all of these other songs that I had written that were more country pop. And I basically was sort of like, okay, I have no excuses at this point to not put them out and see what happens. And so that's really where that came from. So I would say at its core, I love singer-songwriter. I love telling stories. So it's very much probably folk country, that vibe. And then, but it does have that pop element that comes through. It does have a classic rock element that comes through because, like I said, that's what I grew up listening to. So.
Do you create for your fans or for yourself?
I think early on, I very much wanted to sort of fit into the contemporary Christian mold. And so I created sort of what sounded, trendy at the moment. And I definitely, there's little trends that you do pick up on. I mean, if you listen to music, you're going to be exposed to stuff and things kind of flow a certain way. But for the most part, especially with this album now and what I'm doing now, it's more of I'm creating for me and hope that it speaks to somebody. Because I think that is where you really build that relationship with people, is when you're being authentically you and you're putting out something that is very personal and very vulnerable. I think that people respond to that and are able to relate to that much more than something that's, I don't want to say surface, but something that's just very, like everything else and cookie cutter. I think when you actually, for example, I have a song on this EP called By This Time Next Year, and it's literally something that I wrote at the end of 2020 on New Year's Eve to basically tell myself, like, hey, you're going to move past this. Like, it's going to be okay. And I really contemplated not including that song, and then I realized, like, no, I need to, because it really was what this project is about, that you will be okay. Like, despite the heartache, despite whatever, you're going to move past it, and life continues to go on. So, yeah, for me, it's been kind of that maturing process of realizing it's okay to talk about things that are personal. And when you do, I think you relate to somebody so much more, and you're able to actually talk to somebody's heart so much more.
Okay. We're going to play your single, Rock This Way.
it down the track, too scared to look forward, don't wanna look back. Like a bird free falling in a neon sky. We were born to take it easy on a sweet slow ride. Like a burned out jukebox still plays rock and roll. Your love steals my soul. We're gonna rock this way to the beat, steady as a drum. We're gonna prove us right and prove them wrong. And we keep on keeping on, like your favorite song playing on the radio and singing out at the top of your lungs. We're gonna rock this way to love. Don't let the sound of your wheels while they're turning ever drive you crazy. You gotta keep on, never stop believing and holding me, baby. Walk this way while you give me a kiss. Can you handle this? We're gonna rock this way to the beat, steady as a drum. We're gonna prove us right and prove them wrong. And we keep on keeping on, like your favorite song playing on the radio and singing out at the top of your lungs. We're gonna rock this way to love. You don't have to cry no more. I'm coming home to you. And oh my, 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 I'm singing this song for you. We're gonna rock this way to the beat, steady as a drum. We're gonna prove us right and prove them wrong. And we keep on keeping on, like your favorite song playing on the radio and singing out at the top of your lungs. We're gonna rock this way. We're gonna rock this way to the beat, steady as a drum. We're gonna prove us right and prove them wrong. And we keep on keeping on, like your favorite song playing on the radio and singing out at the top of your lungs. We're gonna rock this way. We're gonna rock this way. We're gonna rock this way to love.
Did you write that song, or?
I did. Yeah, I actually wrote that song after probably a couple weeks, maybe even a month of just not really being able to write. I kind of go through spurts of sometimes you just get writer's block, and I hate it because I'm that person that I want to write every single day, at least a verse, something. But I had been going through just that period of time where I wasn't really writing anything, and I wrote that song, I think the same day that I wrote like 4 or 5 or 6 other songs. Like it was finally like this release day, and I was finally like, oh, here we go. We're going to just write songs. And with that one, because I have grown up listening to so much classic rock and stuff like that, and, you know, Tom Petty and the Eagles and all of those, Journey, all of those, I wanted to write a song that, first off, was fun, because I tend to write sad songs. Like, I like writing sad songs. I have since I was like 4 or 5 years old. That's what I've written. And I don't know what that says about me, but I like writing sad songs. So when I was working on songs, I was kind of like, I have to write an upbeat song. Like, I need to write something positive. And I decided to kind of challenge myself by seeing how many different songs I could kind of reference with that one. And so I think there's like 20 or 25 different songs that I sort of referenced in some way, kind of made a nod to them, that are some of my favorite rock songs or classic rock songs. So, yeah.
What's the next for you?
So I'm actually in the studio working on part 2 of this EP. So this project called Songbird, I decided to release it in 2 parts. And part of that was just the kind of the weight of the topic of this project. So I'm looking at a just narcissistic, kind of toxic experience in my life. And what I wanted to do was sort of look at, okay, this is how it starts, and it's all good and wonderful, and then slowly things start happening and creeping in, and in the end of it, like, you are left with all these questions about yourself, and like you can lose yourself in that relationship or that place or whatever. It can really make you start to question who you are. And then part 2, so that's kind of part 1, which is what I call part 1 questions. And then part 2 is sort of looking at it from, okay, I've gone through this. I got to keep going and keep moving. And just kind of looking back on the situation and realizing that it's not about me. Like, it wasn't all about me. It wasn't something that I did wrong or anything like that. And it was kind of that rediscovering process for myself and that healing process. So part 2 is called Answers. So that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm working on that, and hopefully that'll be out in either late September or early October is my planned date for that.
What's your interest outside of music?
For me, my heart is with recovery ministry. I started volunteering with Celebrate Recovery, which it's a 12-step program, but it's based around biblical principles. I started that when I was, I think, in 2013. I started volunteering for that, and I became a worship leader with that, and I've been there ever since. And from that, I actually worked at a women's shelter before I left to do this full time. But I worked at a women's shelter for those that are experiencing homelessness, and we started a recovery group there as well that I still volunteer with, called Thrive. And so really that's where my interest is recovery ministry. And yes, using music for that, but just more so just helping out with recovery ministry, because some of those stories are they're amazing. And I think that is how we're supposed to relate to each other. Like, we're given experiences in our life, and it can either make us better or make us bitter. And I think when we allow it to make us better, we then use our story as that testimony that can really help encourage somebody else in what they're going through. And that's what I try to do with my music too.
Okay. Where can people go and see your music, videos, and events?
Yeah. So my website, jenniferalvarado.com. It has links to all my other socials, but I am on YouTube. It would be, I guess if you're just putting in the address, it's /Jem, JEM, music 12. Or you can look up Jennifer Alvarado Music. Instagram is Jennifer Alvarado Music. TikTok is Jennifer Alvarado Music, though I will tell you I am bad with TikTok. I am never on TikTok, but, I can try something. And then Facebook is also Jem Music 12, if you're looking it up, or Jennifer Alvarado Music. But yeah, I have videos on YouTube. I have actually most of them on my website too. So either way.
Well, thanks for being on the show tonight.
Yeah.
Enjoyed having you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much.